Welcome to the very first episode of Creative Life with Julia Esch. Hi, I'm Julia. I'm an abstract artist and photographer, and on this podcast, I encourage you to live a life full of creativity and passion. I want to kick this off by talking about reinventing yourself. I figured it's a nice topic to start with because, in a way, it's what I'm doing here right now. Even though, since a quite early age, I've felt an affinity to express myself through language, both written or spoken, it apparently took me a few years to get there and now to try out this format. But in general, I strongly believe that the capacity and the ability to reinvent ourselves is very crucial and very ingrained in the human nature. And there's both a side to it that is very playful and about exploring and discovering and acting and exploring different roles, and another side that is linked to survival. And to me, both of those kind of go hand in hand because what you practice playfully might as well at some point become a key to your survival. And all of that sounds quite dramatic, like it's about survival, fighting for survival and whatnot. But I want to get away from that image, like being chased by a lion and whatnot. It's also talking about surviving as the individual you are, not just physically, but mentally, with your ideas, with your universe, with your being who you are, with your character, with your views, even like all of that package that you are, all of that is maybe not physically tangible but is very much at the core of what you are. All of that also is going through fights for survival on a regular basis. And I want to ask you a question, and I kindly want to ask you right now to scroll down to the comment section and type the answer. Do you consider yourself a good actor? Are you a good actor? The thing is that we use acting for various purposes, and acting is like a tool. In the first place, it's neither good or bad. It's just something that I think is very much ingrained in our DNA. From a very, very young age, we start exploring and grasping the concept of tweaking the tone, tweaking our facial expression, adapting a role to get attention, to direct attention somewhere else, to cause or avoid a reaction, or to just get what we want. As I said before, I want to take a look free of judgment at this point, because as with any other tool, with a knife you might as well cut bread. You might do something malicious, you shouldn't, but you might. You make the difference, basically. But there's another aspect to acting that is last but not the least. And it's that we as humans enjoy slipping into different roles, playing different characters. We enjoy doing that ourselves. We enjoy watching it on screen or in other forms of entertainment. And besides being just entertainment, it also is, in a way, a regulatory mechanism. Because there is something soothing and cathartic or emphasizing and strengthening in seeing an emotion on screen, in an image, feel it through music. There is something very particular about this that is very human and very natural. And it has to do a lot, I think, with the way we also process emotions, how we embed them, how we go through them, how we experience them, and what we make out of them. So, neurologically, to this day, it's quite difficult for science to untangle what exactly happens when we view an artwork, for instance, and that evokes an emotion in us, and vice versa, when we have an emotion and try to visualize it, what exactly happens in our brain. One thing is clear, though, that it is a process that is very unique. And we are now kind of drifting away a bit from the major topic. It's an interesting tangent there, but why I'm mentioning all of this is that basically it's a way to practice reinvention, to practice becoming something and someone else. And this is why I think it's so important to kind of keep that muscle flexible and train it and explore it. Because through exposing ourselves to these different roles, to these different challenges, and what I like to call it is like microdosing challenges. For instance, if you are trying out new activities that you find interesting, but maybe you've been intimidated and hesitating to try, or you even don't need to go that far. You can take an activity that you are very used to or a routine and just switch it up, do it in a different order, do something in a different place than usually, in a different position. It maybe is like a strange example at this point, but instead of doing something standing or like brushing your teeth, do it sitting, whatnot. Do group activities, try them out, doing them just by yourself, and vice versa. So I think you get the concept. Just taking something that is familiar to you, taking that framework and starting to alter and bend it. Because by doing so, you will expose yourself to little challenges, little quests, but you also will maybe start noticing a different feel about things. Things will feel different from the usual, and they will make you see things differently than the usual. And you might now ask, like, how do I go from changing the position I brush my teeth in? How is that supposed to tell me how I can reinvent myself? It's that simple. You start building the small things. You practice just the habit of not doing things in the same way every time, day in, day out. And it starts opening a perspective in your thinking and in you that maybe you are not supposed to do bigger things always the same way as well. This is why I believe abstract art is also so powerful, because in abstract art, things are very much focused around the experience, how you experience a piece of art, what that evokes in you. It's very focused around self-reflection. And that's now when we're talking about the viewer's perspective. If we talk about the creator's perspective, if you engage in creating abstract art, it allows you to play through different emotions, different memories, different images, just a spectrum of different experiences in a safe space where you can put things out in whatever manner you feel driven to do. So it's a space that invites to be very liberated. And I think now we kind of get to the core why I am so passionate about encouraging you to do this, because I am very sure that to many people, these little things, these little steps, and these little challenges they introduce in their lives, building a relationship to all these parts of you, getting a feel for who you are, what are the core beliefs that drive your reactions, those little impulsive thoughts and reactions that you get when you do all those things. Finding spaces and activities that encourage you to be that where you feel comfortable being that. I think that is where you truly can get a taste for being really free and feel liberated. And that sounds as all of us are trapped or whatnot. I think most of us are. I think most of us are. And what I'm not implying, though, is that it's not voluntarily. Because even if in some situations parts of us might feel enclosed and trapped, it all comes with a reward, I believe, very often. And the social system is structured that way. We alter behavior, we develop patterns, and we master that acting skill. Mostly in the end, for survival reasons. To survive in a social space, to survive in relationships, to achieve things we want to achieve. But I think it's very important to remember that all of your parts need to feel like they're part of the story, that they're part of this game, and that it's not just a few that you have cherry-picked and that get to sit at the table and call the shots and say what the entire system is now going to do and live with. And I believe that is what I want to put behind the term liberation in this context. I feel it's important to discover all these parts of you, to call them by their name, to see them for who they are, and then you come to a standpoint where you can decide and where you can choose. Who's the best suit, who's the best pick for the situation you're facing or for what you want to do. And that's just one of the reasons why I would say it is very beneficial to practice these things. Because in the end, all this knowledge that you gain about yourself, like this catalog of yourself you build, this instruction, like very often there is like this meme material and whatnot flying around with, like nobody gave you an extra instruction for life and for yourself. Yeah, nobody did, but you did get the abilities and like the skills. And living at this age, especially like in a privileged part of the world like I do, you have the resources to find out. And I strongly encourage you to do that. Because that is going to be your key to everlastingly reinvent yourself, to always rebuild your universe, your life, wherever you might be, whatever the circumstances might be. I believe these are the things. That's the algorithm that helps you to always kind of, ground zero, and you can always rebuild things. Because if the fact or the event of a ground zero happening is very often out of our control, the only thing you do have some control over is the knowledge that you gain and that you ideally can keep and also use and apply. So I do believe that this is something that can truly change the way how you walk through life and how you perceive life and how you perceive yourself and maybe even the worth of your time, of your power, of what you're able to do. That is, I think, something that we forget very easily. We get distracted very easily from exploring the things that actually drive us, that we desire, the things that make us excited. I'm not even saying happy, because that's also a very wobbly and very broad term, actually. Because what even is happiness? But excitement is something that I feel can be defined quite well. So yeah, that's, I think, the major reason why you should do it. It's your key to always ride the wave. No matter when it comes, how it comes, you will always ride it. And if you happen to crash, you will always have the recipe to get back up on your feet. But that being the major reason, I'd say there are two other ones that I want to also dive into. And one of those is one of the reasons, one of those three reasons, is that we just hate boredom. Now we're again at the acting part for entertainment and excitement. And I'm sure like everyone watching this will have seen that experiment with people being placed in a room with no distraction, and there's just like a buzzer, and pressing that will give them an electric shock, and people at some point start like buzzing the s out of that to receive, something else than the boring situation they're in. So we as humans do have the tendency to self-sabotage when we are bored. Not saying everybody is doing that. Like who am I to speak? Like all of the things that I'm talking about here are very subjective, very much formed on my perception of things and on my collection of information. But it is just me sharing my thoughts and my take on things. And if you can take something away from that, that's great. And if I can inspire you to maybe just explore those topics deeper for yourself, that's great too. But in general, there is this tendency to cause friction, to cause stress, just for the sake of having that in your life. And I want to take the shame out of that because, again, it's a very human behavior. I'm not saying this is something everybody should do. Just go and pick fights for the thrill. What I'm not buying into, though, that none of you have ever done this because, again, very human thing to do. But that brings us to the point being, reinventing yourself can be a very healthy release for that need. Not even release for that need, but it can be a healthy way to meet that need, and it can be a healthy outlet for like pent up pressure and boredom, and you can channel it into this reinvention part. And what I can promise you, we don't need science for that. That's gonna be probably an investment with a better return than picking a fight just for the sake of action. So that is again one factor that I believe can improve just your life experience by lengths, I'd say. And again, I think that the one common thing with all those aspects we're talking about now is that the key is to be conscious about it. The thing is that your need for that is going to be there. You have this skill regardless. Like that inclination for acting and like slipping into roles and whatnot, it's there. But very often, I believe, these things are happening subconsciously, not very directed, or not even really observed. It's not so much about like controlling or suppressing things. It's about observing things and understanding what's going on. So I guess that is maybe even the bigger thing that I would encourage you to do, to get really observant about that. Get observant about the moments where you get bored, what you're about to do, what's your coping strategy for boredom actually. And seeking ways to, you know, explore different parts of you, maybe try out different shapes and forms of things. It might be an alternative to many of the other coping mechanisms we all have developed throughout our life. And again, completely free from judgment here. And I'm coming from a place where I will not claim that I've had, the prime example, most beautiful and most healthy coping mechanisms. Like I have my fair share of very strange experiences in that sense. And this is why I'd say my life significantly improved once I stopped treating it as something that is a burden and something destructive and annoying and something that I want to get rid of, because, there is no way. There is no way. And once you start recognizing this urge to, switch things up, once you make it a priority in a way, in that extent that is possible to you, and it doesn't have, like, of course, material opportunities and resources provide you with different possibilities and whatnot. But it does begin with the intention and with the desire to do these things, with the commitment to, this is a need in me. I'm gonna take it seriously, and I'm gonna do things to satisfy it before it turns into an urge that's gonna be driven by impulse, that's gonna, make me throw a good portion of my reason overboard, probably. And I'm sure that behavior and pattern of reactions is quite familiar to many people. And it doesn't have to go to extremes. It does for some. And again, what are extremes? How do you define that? But yeah, that's a chapter with many tangent directions now. But yeah, reason number 2. Because we hate boredom. Reinvent yourself, because your brain is gonna steer you anyways into the direction of something exciting, something new, something that might feel unstable first. But once you discover it and once you explore that element, you understand that doesn't feel that chaotic at all, doesn't feel that unfamiliar at all. Actually, I saved the 3rd reason as the last one, because I believe that's the most emotional one for many people. And it's practicing reinventing yourself for the sake of finding your purpose. Because very often we don't know if something is our purpose until we've tried it, until we felt it, until we've got a taste of that. That is usually when we understand that this is something that is giving us so much joy, but also so much intrigue. It's hard to describe. I mean, this is very individual. What does purpose feel to you like? What does it feel to you to work purposefully and in your purpose? For me, it's something that is really giving me so much energy, so much drive, so much intrigue. It hooks me. It just hooks me, and it pulls me in, and it's like, to me, an entire universe unfolds. It's like, this is exciting. This is my playground. I want to stay here forever. And for me, it's like that with art, but not even just with the painting part or whatnot. Like, to me, it's more broader than that. To me, I think It is art, but it is also just this entire segment of creating a show, an experience, something immersive, taking people to a different place, making them feel different ways, showing them all the different varieties of emotions and how life can feel, and sparking all sorts of stories in their minds. Different ones. For some, it's going to be something really dark and something really stinging. And then again, there's going to be something very dreamy and lucid and warm. I love to play all of that palette. And that game with atmosphere, with emotions, with imagery, with aesthetics, weaving worlds out of it. This is what I discovered at some point. But it was a very gradual process, actually. Now telling that, it sounds like it was boom. It was just, from one night to the other, I was just there. It wasn't like that. There were a lot of different activities and different interests and different things that intrigued me and that I felt very drawn to. And I dare to say that with a good portion of luck, of good timing, but also of a little bit of risk taking, and over the years I accumulated a catalog of different experiences, different things I tried, different things I failed at. But all of that paved the path for me to, build the space and the world that I'm now working in. And coming back to the reason why you should practice that reinventing part, I think that urge to, or that, for me, very often it felt like an urge. For me, there was a lot of pressure and need behind that feeling and behind those thoughts. And that was also giving me, I believe, a lot of fuel. But to me, it was like, what else can I feel? Where else can I take that? What else can I do? Like, what other language I can find to express this? How can I display this? How can I make this thing living in my mind? How can I make it tangible, reality? Share it, like create something out of it. And I was trying out different ways to do that. And along the way, I did also decently master a lot of that, which still, it is what feeds a lot into my mixed media work. And I think it really helped me to develop that mentality of being very open and embracing towards the idea of mixing some materials, and sometimes I will look at different textures, at different things, and having a quite deep expertise on each of the materials, I usually can quite well estimate how those will work together. Sometimes not so, then I do some research or just do some field work and I just experiment. But in general, I think this is what really opened my mind to all these different varieties of things possible. And also it really tore down the boundaries in between the disciplines for me. And it opened so many different doors in my head. And I do think that that's because I followed that call of, well, this is one version, but I now feel like there's something else and something new that has emerged in me and formed itself in my world and in my visual space, and I need to find something new. I need to find something else. I maybe need to become a different artist to express that. I need to change the discipline maybe. And it doesn't mean that I'm never going to do the previous thing again, but it means that for the vision and the headspace that I'm now in currently, this is going to be the oyster where I work in, That's going to be the pool. And having that flexibility. And again, those pools, they are not separated. Like there's not a concrete block built around it. If I have the necessity to jump into a different pool, I'm going to do that, you know? And I think there is, again, a lot of peace in the process of practicing that, because it trains that assurance that, you know, whatever may happen, whatever idea I might get, whatever challenge I'm gonna face, like, let's keep it practical, like whatever suggestion, commission, vision is gonna get thrown at me, I know at some point I'm just gonna take a look at it, I'm gonna estimate things, and at some point I might come up with something completely out of my usual box. Or, you know, usually my box is by now so broad and so versatile that I can rest assured that I'm gonna find something in that pool. Something in that pool is gonna strike an idea, give the execution a starting point. And you know that I do, like, as wild and vivid and broad and chaotic things might seem from the outside, I do have a quite systematic approach to this usually. Usually I try to allow myself to like take these frames and spaces for the different parts of the work process. But now we've kind of drifted away again, very much into an artsy tangent. Keeping your eyes open and keeping your mind sharpened for the different things that make you go like, I want to actually slip into those shoes. I want to do that. I want to try that. I want to know how that feels like. Again, closing the circle with the acting example. If there's a role, if there's a person, if there's something, a profession, just something, even if it's just the uniform in a profession, if something in there is calling you in any way, why not try out the role? So I think ironically, there's a lot of stability hidden in taking charge of these things. Because once you realize that it's part of how we were built in the first place, all of us have this structure embedded in the foundations, it becomes less scary, and there is a possibility, not just possibility, but it's how you can perfectly do it. You can consciously create space in your life for this part of yourself and for these needs. And you know what? It's going to be probably your best security for always finding a way, always finding a solution, always find something to do. And the chances are high that the thing you're going to find or going to come up with is even going to be something that really excites you and that is, or maybe comes close to what your purpose is and feels like. So thank you everyone for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to hit the subscribe button and to follow me on Instagram. You can also take a more detailed look at all my art there, in particular also that painting above me. You can see it in full beauty there in my feed. And I want to make a tradition out of pulling a tarot card to close the episode. And if you're not really into that sort of stuff, it's all fine. Just take it as a psychological exercise, affirmation, whatever. So we've got the Page of Swords here. That card talks a lot about communication and finding new ways to communicate, learning new ways to communicate. And in general, the pages in the tarot depict people, often young people, but also in a metaphorical sense, people who are at the beginning of development, at the beginning of a journey of exploring an element or a skill. So I feel this resonates quite well with today's topic. So I wish you to always find energy and the desire to learn something new, to embrace something new, and to also talk about it, to share that with people around you, and to inspire others to do the same. So thank you and see you in the next video. Bye.